Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Today we're with Lord Nityananda. So you got Lord Chaitanya, you got Lord Nityananda, and yeah, Lord Nityananda's appearance day is coming very soon. 1 week from, more or less a week, 10 days from today. So we can look forward to that.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay.
Okay, it's Canto 2, Chapter 9, we're starting text 37. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Alright, O Brahma, just follow this conclusion by fixed concentration of mind, and no pride will disturb you, neither in the partial nor in the final devastation. Purport. As in the Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, has summarized the whole text in 4 verses, namely Aham Sarvasya Prabhava, etc. So the complete Srimad Bhagavatam has also been summarized in 4 verses as Aham Evasham Evagre, etc. Thus, the secret purpose of the most important Bhagavata conclusion has been explained by the original speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam, who was also the original speaker of the Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. There are many grammarians and non-devotee material wranglers who have tried to present false interpretations of these 4 verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But the Lord himself advised Brahmaji not to be deviated from the fixed conclusion the Lord has taught him. The Lord was the teacher of the nucleus of Srimad Bhagavatam in 4 verses, and Brahma was the receiver of the knowledge. Misinterpretation of the word aham by the word jugglery of the impersonation should not disturb the mind of the strict followers of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the text of the personality of Godhead and his unalloyed devotees, who are also known as the Bhagavatas, and any outsider should have no access to this confidential literature of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Of devotional service.
Yes, devotional service. But unfortunately, the impersonist who has no relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead sometimes tries to interpret Srimad Bhagavatam by his poor fund of knowledge in grammar and dry speculation. Therefore, the Lord warns Brahma, and through Brahma all future devotees of the Lord, in a disciplic succession of Brahma, that one should never be misled by the conclusion of the so-called grammarians or by other men with a poor fund of knowledge, but must always fix the mind properly via the parampara system. No one should try to give a new interpretation by dint of mundane knowledge. And the first step, therefore, in pursuance of the system of knowledge received by Brahma, is to approach a bona fide guru who is the representative of the Lord following the parampara system. No one should try to squeeze out his own meaning by imperfect mundane knowledge. The guru, or the bona fide spiritual master, is competent to teach a disciple in the right path with reference to the context of all authentic Vedic literature. He does not attempt to juggle words to bewilder the student. The bona fide spiritual master, by his personal activities, teaches the disciple the principles of devotional service. Without personal service, one would go on speculating like the impersonalists and dry speculators life after life, and would be unable to reach the final conclusion. By following the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master in conjunction with the principles of revealed scriptures, the student will rise to the plane of complete knowledge, which will be exhibited by development of detachment from the world of sense gratification. The mundane wranglers are surprised that one can detach himself from the world of sense gratification, and thus any attempt to be fixed in God realization appears to them to be mysticism. This detachment from the sensory world is called the Brahma Bhuta stage of realization. The preliminary stage of transcendental devotional service, para bhakti. The Brahma Bhuta stage of life is also known as the Atmarama stage, in which one is fully self-satisfied and does not hanker for the world of sense enjoyment. This stage of full satisfaction is the proper situation for understanding the transcendental knowledge of the personality of Godhead. The Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.20 affirms this. Evam prasana manaso Bhagavat Bhakti Yogata Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate. Thus, in the completely satisfied stage of life exhibited by fuller detachment from the world of sense enjoyment as a result of performing devotional service, one can understand the science of God in the liberated stage.
Very long paragraph.
Yeah.
What's your takeaway from that?
There's no need to interpret. Just follow the bona fide path in a disciplined succession. Then you can become detached from the material world while still in it.
Jiva Mukti. Okay. Yeah, a lot of mention of mundane wranglers and grammarians and people who try to manipulate and reinterpret what's already been given. I like the verse itself also. Krishna speaking, O Brahma, just follow this conclusion by fixed concentration of mind, and no pride will disturb you either in partial nor in the final devastation. So it's assuring him that if he just follows the instructions, then he'll be protected from false pride. So, and we all know the famous saying, pride cometh before the fall. So that's also there. Okay. Continuing, same verse, and more of the purport. In this stage of full satisfaction and detachment from the sensory world, one can know the mystery of the science of God with all its confidential intricacies, and not by grammar or academic speculation. Because Brahma qualified himself for such reception, the Lord was pleased to disclose the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam. This direct instruction by the Lord to any devotee who is detached from the world of sense gratification is possible, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 10.10, which is 8, 9, 10, which is the third of the 4 seed verses in the Bhagavad Gita. Tesham sarata yuktanam bhajatam pratipurvikam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayantite. Unto the devotees who are constantly engaged in the Lord's transcendental loving service, pratipurvikam, purvakam, the Lord, out of his causeless mercy upon the devotee, gives direct instruction so that the devotee may make accurate progress on the path returning home, back to Godhead. One should not, therefore, try to understand these 4 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam by mental speculation. Rather, by direct perception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is able to know all about his abode, Vaikuntha, as was seen and experienced by Brahmaji. Such Vaikuntha realization is possible by any devotee of the Lord situated in the transcendental position as a result of devotional service.
In the Gopal-tapani Upanishad Shruti, it is said, Gopa Veshu me Purusha Purastad Averba Bhuva. The Lord appeared before Brahma as a cowboy. That is, as the original personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, Govinda, who is later described by Brahmaji in his Brahma Samhita 5.29, Chintamini
Prakarasad Masukalpa Viksha Laksha Briteshu Shurabira Bipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrahma Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Brahmaji desires to worship the original personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, who resides in the topmost Vaikuntha planet, known as Goloka Vrindavan. where he is in the habit of keeping Surabi cows as a cowboy, and where he is served by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune, the gopis, with love and respect.
Yeah, Gopal Tapani Upanishad. This is Shruti Shastra. And in that book, it describes how Lord Brahma got darshan of Krishna. Of course, we hear here in the pages of Bhagavatam how first he saw Vishnu, but then after seeing Vishnu, then he was given initiation into the Gopal mantra, and this is one of the Gayatri mantras. And then, after that, he was given initiation to the Kama Gayatri mantra. So in this way, he got to see the Lord directly as in his form as Krishna, not just as Vishnu. Therefore, Lord Krishna is the original form of the Supreme Lord, Krishnas tu Bhagavan Swayam. This is also clear from the instruction. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Lord Krishna, and not directly Narayan or the Purusha avatars, which are subsequent manifestations. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam means consciousness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the sound representation of the Lord as much as the Bhagavad Gita is. Thus, the conclusion is that Srimad Bhagavatam is the science of the Lord, in which the Lord and his abode are perfectly realized. Jai Hari Bol.
Text 38. Sukadev Goswami said to Maharaj Parikshit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, after being seen in his transcendental form, instructing Brahmaji, the leader of the living entities, disappeared. Purport. In this verse, it is clearly mentioned that the Lord is Ajna, or the Supreme Person, and that he was showing his transcendental form, Atmano Rupam, to Brahmaji, while instructing him in the summarization of Srimad Bhagavatam in 4 verses. He is Ajna, or the Supreme Person, amongst Jananam, or all persons. All living entities are individual persons. Amongst all such persons, Lord Hari is supreme, as confirmed in the Shruti mantra, Nitya Nityanam Chetanam Chetananam. So there is no place for impersonal features in the transcendental world, as there are impersonal features in the material world. Whenever there is Chaitana or knowledge, the personal feature comes in. In the spiritual world, everyone is full of knowledge, and therefore everything in the transcendental world, the land, the water, the tree, the mountain, the river, the man, the animal, the bird, everything is of the same quality, namely Chaitana. And therefore, everything there is individual and personal. Srimad Bhagavatam gives us this information as the supreme Vedic literature, and it was personally instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to Brahmaji, so that the leader of the living entities might broadcast the message to all in the universe in order to teach the supreme knowledge of Bhakti Yoga. Brahmaji in his turn instructed Narada, his beloved son, the same message of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Narada in his turn taught the same to Vyasadeva, who again taught it to Sukadev Goswami. Through Sukadev Goswami's grace and by the mercy of Maharaj Parikshit, we are all given Srimad Bhagavatam perpetually to learn the science of the absolute personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. Krishna appeared, gave these 4 verses and disappeared. I don't know how far we'd get, actually, ordinarily with that level, that little bit of information. Because it says here that Brahma is the leader of the living entities. So you have to understand, like, sometimes, especially when you grow up as a Hindu, he's Lord Brahma, Narada Muni, they're depicted as almost comical. Narada Muni always has a funny seeker. This is how we were brought up.
Seeker has a top knot.
Yeah, well, and whatever, it was like,
It's a top knot.
Alright. And Brahma, like, the seriousness and the level of seniority. Like, I only learnt from Prabhupada's books, to be honest with you, to take these personalities seriously. So this personality, Lord Brahma, is extremely learned and is extremely important and senior, because Krishna taught him first. First of all, and I never learnt this. It's Prabhupada's mercy. So then, following on from that, we just read this purport, and it says Krishna appeared, gave him these 4 verses, and disappeared. And you're thinking, God, and we need Prabhupada's purports for the whole of the Bhagavatam to understand. And even then, you don't get it, and you've got to keep reading and studying, and you listen to other spiritual masters, devotees, and do courses, and then you can get it. So how learned Lord Brahma was, that he was able to take these 4 verses, imparted into his heart and mind, and he created everything by the instruction of Krishna. So it's a very important person. It's just reinstating his position, like I said, which isn't unfortunately there, if I'm honest, to be mainstream Hindu upbringing. The level of, especially these 2 personalities, Narada Muni and Lord Brahma, they're not revered and taken seriously as the way Prabhupada introduces us to them.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting that they kind of occur more like fictional or mythological characters and kind of cartoony-ish.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, yeah, that's interesting. But Srila Prabhupada really brings it to life and helps us to understand that this isn't just some mythology. This is actually the creation of the universe. And although we may inhabit this planet and we think we know so many things and understand so many things, we understand so little, really, let's be honest. Even each and every one of us understands so little even about our own bodies, how the body is really functioning, how the heart continues to beat, how the liver processes things, how stomach breaks down digestion. We may have some ideas, but even if we understood how all of it actually mechanically or scientifically works, why does it work and what keeps it going? What sets it in motion? I mean, these things are like, what to speak of the existence of other living entities or beings who are much more intelligent than us, which is an important point. My reflection on this was this word chaitana, and how Srila Prabhupada describes it in the spiritual world. Everything is chaitana. And this idea is, it says, whenever there is chaitana or knowledge, the personal feature comes in. So it means knowledge has some understanding. A stone doesn't seem to have knowledge. But in the spiritual world, whether it's a tree or a bird or a stone or a river, it all has chaitana, which means it has knowledge. And that means that in the spiritual world, everything is comprised primarily of knowledge. Just like it's described in the higher planets, Lord Brahma, and because things are fixed more in the higher levels of mode of goodness, that's why Lord Brahma and the Devotees, the demigods, can live for so long, because they're comprised primarily of intelligence. What does that mean? It means a mode of goodness. So things that are kept in the mode of goodness last longer, whereas things that are kept in the mode of ignorance, they break down and destroys faster. So if you have knowledge or you have intelligence, then you know how to look after things and care for it. In ignorance, we ignore things and we just let it break and fall down. We don't care for it, so therefore it degrades. Ignorance is dark matter. Intelligence is light matter. Light matter is lighter and there's less resistance. Dark matter is heavier and there is more resistance. So anyway, just some thoughts. But yeah, I appreciate that point. The fact that you may know about these personalities, but you see them in a certain light. Interesting. Okay, so where are we up to? Text 39. Maybe this will be the last one. So, text 39. On the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who is the object of transcendental enjoyment for the senses of devotees, Brahma, with folded hands, began to recreate the universe, full with living entities as it was previously. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is the object for fulfilling the senses of all living entities. Illusioned by the glaring reflection of the external energy, the living entities worship the senses instead of engaging them properly in fulfilling the desires of the Supreme.
In the Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, there is the following verse. Akshno palam twadrisha darshanam he. Tano palam twadrisha gatra sangha. Jiva palam twadrisha kirtanam he. Sudula Bhagavata he loke. A devotee of the Lord, the purpose of the visual sense is fulfilled simply by seeing you. And to touch your body is a fulfillment of bodily touch. The tongue is meant for glorifying your qualities, because in this world a pure devotee of the Lord is very difficult to find.
Originally, the senses of the living entity were awarded for this purpose, namely, to engage them in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, or that of his devotees. But the conditioned souls, illusioned by the material energy, became captivated by sense enjoyment. Therefore, the whole process of God consciousness is meant to rectify the conditional activities of the senses and to re-engage them in the direct service of the Lord. Lord Brahma thus engaged his senses in the Lord by recreating the conditioned living entities to act in the recreated universe. This material universe is thus created and annihilated by the will of the Lord. It is created to give the conditioned soul a chance to act to return home back to Godhead. The servants like Brahmaji, Naradaji, Vyasji, and their company become busy with the same purpose of the Lord, to reclaim the conditioned souls from the field of sense gratification and return them to the normal stage of engaging the senses in service of the Lord. Instead of doing so, i.e., converting the actions of the senses, the impersonalists began to make the conditioned souls senseless, and the Lord also senseless. That is improper treatment for the conditioned souls. The diseased condition of the senses may be treated by curing the defect, but not uprooting the senses altogether. When there is some disease in the eyes may be cured to see properly. Plucking out the eyes is no treatment. Similarly, the whole material disease is based on the process of sense gratification, and liberation from the disease condition is re-engagement of the senses to see the beauty of the Lord, hear his glories, and act on his account. Thus, Brahmaji created the universal activities again. So, a couple of things here from my side, anyway. That one is that we should understand this is a recreation. And what does that mean? It means that at the end of each day of Lord Brahma, you enter into his night, and his night is a partial devastation. Then he awakes again in the morning and recreates the entire universe again, and re-impregnates all the living entities back into it. That seems like a lot of work. But he has, what is it? 32 trillion or 3 trillion 42 billion. I always forget the numbers. But a lot of years. I think it's 3 trillion 42 billion years. So he's it's many years. And so he recreates the entire thing, repopulates it, goes about as one day, and then goes to sleep, and everything is wiped out again. The other thing is this point about sense gratification and how the impersonalists try to make things senseless, means have no senses. God has no senses, Brahma has no senses, nothing. But Prabhupada's point here, that when there is some disease in the eyes may be cured to see properly. Plucking out the eyes is no treatment. So it means just removing the senses That doesn't cure. That's not really solving the problem. Just like if you have some problem with your eye, if you have cataracts and you just pluck your eye out, that, okay, in one sense you could say it solves the problem, but the point is you have an eye, so how can the eye be engaged properly or be rectified in such a way that it's used according to Krishna consciousness? So the senses, therefore, have to be used to glorify the beauty of the Lord. Sorry, any thoughts from your side?
Yeah, it's true. Sometimes we just like in an immature stage we become averse, but Prabhupada explains that it's about purifying, because aversion is also attraction.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just learning to be in the material world and just using everything you've got somehow in Krishna's service.
Yeah. Okay. So we're trying to use our time in Krishna service. We're trying to use Facebook Live in Krishna service.
Yes.
Trying to use everything. Lakshmi in Krishna service.
Yes.
Eating propensity in Krishna service.
Yes. Time for lunch.
Yeah, it is lunchtime. Okay, thank you all very much. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. And don't
Right.
forget, and we're going to put a link now. We are going to put a link on our session so that if you want a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita, all you have to do is hit that button and it should take you to the place where you can get it. Not sure how we can do it or if we can, but I've just said it, so we're going to figure it out. Okay, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Lord Nityananda Mahajan.